What do you think of when you hear the word terrorism? Most people would refer to September 11th. Of course, those were horrific events, and it was horrible because 3,000 people died that day. There was no precedented event before that, but unfortunately that's not the only terrorist attack we've had in the history. I'm here to inform you what terrorism is, and I want my audience to know why it is important for us to understand terrorism. Terrorism is an act of violence meant to produce fear without caring for human life. The terrorist wants to create fear so that the leadership will be questioned. There are three perspectives of terrorism: the terrorists, the victims, and the public view. The terrorists do not see themselves as evil. They think they are legitimate combatants fighting for what they believe in. The victim is a person who sees terrorists as a criminal with no regard for human life. But the general point of view is very unstable. The terrorist takes great effort to foster a Robin Hood image of swaying public point of view. Now that we understand what terrorism is and why it is important to create fear within the general public, let's look at the origin of terrorism and understand the background. According to Britannica Encyclopedia, word terror comes from the Latin word meaning to frighten. Although the reign of terror started from the French Revolution, in today's modern times, terrorism usually refers to the killing of innocent people by a private group in such a manner to create media spectacle. Some countries provide safe havens for terrorists. For example, Al-Qaeda made a safe haven in Sudan in exchange for building local infrastructure for the population. Ultimately, the distinction is a political judgment, whether the terrorist group is supported by the government or by a private organization. As you can see, it is just a nation's political judgment. Now let's look at the different types of terrorism. According to Britannica.com, there are 6 types of terrorism. The civil disorder, which is a form of collective violence, interfering with the peace, security, and the normal functionality of the community. The second one is the political terrorism, which is a criminal behavior designed primarily to generate fear in the community or substantial segment of it for political purposes. The non-political terrorism, of course, is a terrorist activity not regarding to the political purposes. The quasi-terrorism, although, is a terrorist who, for example, a person, if they flee from the prison and they use a victim as their warranty to get out of the prison, they take somebody hostage for it, it's considered a quasi-terrorism. The limited political terrorism is when there is some influence from the political side, but the ultimate goal is not the ultimate concerted campaign is to capture control of the state. The official or state terrorism refers to the nations whose rule is based upon fear and oppression that reach similar to terrorism or such proportions. The major sources of funding include kidnapping for ransom, smuggling, fraud, and robbery. Sometimes the revolutionary taxes are extorted from businesses, and they also play a secondary role as one of the other means of intimidating the target population. The tactics terrorists use are normally violent by using explosives or poison. Some terrorist organizations usually methodically plan attacks in advance and may train participants, plant undercover agents, and raise money for supporters or through organized crime. Terrorism is a criminal act that influences an audience beyond the immediate victim. The strategy of terrorists is to commit acts of violence that draws attention of the local populace, the government, and the world of their cause. The terrorists plan their attack to obtain the greatest publicity, choosing targets that symbolize what they oppose. In this speech, I discuss what terrorism is, the origin of the term, and 6 different types of terrorism. I hope you have a better understanding of what terrorism is and why it's important for us to understand terrorism.